Hello and welcome to the week ahead from the Financial Times in London. Here are some of the top stories we'll be watching in the next few days. Britons go to the polls on June the 8th to choose their government in the third major nationwide ballot in 3 years. The US Commerce Department releases factory orders on Monday, and Italy is due to hold its first round of municipal elections, widely seen as a test of the public mood in a country that's experienced a populist surge in recent years. First, the UK's general parliamentary election comes barely 2 years after former Conservative Prime Minister David Cameron won an unexpected majority, and less than 1 year after he resigned following the referendum to leave the European Union. The ruling Conservatives lead in the polls, which is a noteworthy achievement at a time when real wages have started to fall for the first time in 3 years, although Jeremy Corbyn's opposition Labour Party has enjoyed a pickup in recent days. If Prime Minister Theresa May remains in number 10, her mind is likely to shift quickly to Brexit. Formal negotiations are due to begin on June the 19th. Our political correspondent, Henry Mance, has this analysis of the coming vote.
So this is Theresa May's chance to get a mandate from the British people. She said she wants their endorsement for her Brexit strategy, even though she hasn't given that much detail about what she wants from negotiations. And the polls have suggested that she's on course to do really well, that she might get a majority of, say, over 100 seats. That's up from less than 20 today. The problems have come more recently with the Labour Party manifesto promising to spend more on education and health, having gone down quite well amongst the public, and they've closed that gap. So in the last few days, there's actually quite a lot to play for and quite a lot of uncertainty about whether the Tories will manage to capitalise on their lead of a few weeks ago. I think once the vote takes place on Thursday and once we see the initial estimations, things could happen very quickly about whether the Conservatives are back in power and then reshaping their team, Theresa May, or if Labour does really badly, we may see calls for Jeremy Corbyn to resign as leader.
Now to the US, where factory orders, published on Monday, are expected to decline for the first time since November. Economists estimate that new orders for manufactured goods fell 0.2% in April, compared with the previous month when they climbed 0.2% to $478.2 billion. Economic indicators so far have raised some concerns that the rebound in growth in the second quarter will be softer than initially thought, and investors will be watching the data for clues on the health of the US economy. Mamta Bhatkar, FT reporter in New York, had this to say about the figures.
Manufacturing and services have told two different stories in recent years. Manufacturing in the US has been impacted by both a fall in oil prices as well as strength in the US dollar, whereas the services sector has continued to expand at a healthy clip. So when investors look at the data next week, they're primarily looking to see if the manufacturing sector has found stable footing and if the US services sector continues to remain healthy. While the first quarter GDP was revised up to show 1.2% growth, there are concerns that weaker data could limit the extent of the rebound that economists are expecting in the second quarter. Indeed, a couple of economists at Goldman Sachs have already lowered their forecasts, and the New York Fed and the Atlanta Fed have also lowered their tracking estimates of GDP growth.
And now to Italy, where mayoral elections on June 11th in about 1,000 towns across the country will be closely scrutinised after a populist surge in recent years has come to be seen as the next big source of political risk in the Eurozone. Eyes will be on the performance of the anti-establishment Five Star movement, as well as the ruling centre-left Democratic Party, for a sense of the national mood ahead of a general election likely to happen later in the year. The FT's Rome Bureau Chief, James Politi, has more.
The stakes are high for both the ruling centre-left Democratic Party, led by former Prime Minister Matteo Renzi, and for the anti-establishment Five Star movement, led by comedian Beppe Grillo, which has called for a referendum on the euro. The biggest battlegrounds will be in Palermo, the capital of Sicily, and Genova, the capital of Liguria in the northwest. Any runoffs would take place on June 25th.
And that's what the week ahead looks like from the Financial Times in London. See you again next time.